All right, we're back. All right, we already uploaded part one. This is Max going over books that he's read. So, what book are we at right now, Max?
22.
Book 22?
Mm-hmm.
21 was the one that had 4 parts?
Yeah, 3 books, yeah.
Or 3 books. And how many total is there? Bo doing? He's eating
33.
Okay, so we have 11. 12 books more. All right, let's get started. Let's go.
He is enjoying that blanket. Okay.
Book number 22.
So the next book after the Dreamland Billionaires series is Our Migrant Souls by Hector Tovar. So that's
Okay.
the cover. Basically, oh my god, this is a book. It's like a memoir, not really, like an autobiography, I guess. I don't.
Autobiography?
Non-fiction, because part of it is about the author's life.
What are you doing over there?
It isn't. But it's basically just talks about being Latino. Okay. There's a lot of different things that go into it. I won't say actor. The author is a child of immigrants, I believe, from Guatemala. He was born in LA the day after his parents immigrated. So it was like a change coming to the country, and then you got a child right after that. So, and then he became a professor talking about Latino history and stuff like that. And he just works with a lot of Latino students and teaching them like our history and the different cultures and all that. And then it talks a lot about like the history and colonialism, racism, what does it mean to really be like Latino, like, because there's many different races within being Latino, and then there's that whole, when you're filling out a form, it used to like just like where you put yourself often, and so that's the whole, I don't know, it just talks about a whole bunch of different things. It talks about how Black American culture is kind of intertwined with Latino American culture.
Mm-hmm.
And it talks about being Afro-Latino in the indigenous communities, being Euro-Latino. So he just goes into depth about pretty much everything. And like how Latino doesn't look one way, it doesn't mean one thing. There's so many different cultures within Latino culture, and there's so many different cultures from different parts of the world, like in Brazil and Colombia and stuff like that. There's a lot of African influence, while in Argentina and Uruguay there's a lot of European influence, and in like Central America there's a lot of indigenous influence. So it talks about a whole bunch of different things, and I mean, I would recommend reading it in general, but I would definitely recommend reading it if you're Latino, because it felt so validating in a way, reading it, like constantly getting told that I wasn't Latino enough because I'm a no sabo kid, because I'm güero, just like all this stuff. I don't know, it just like it was really validating reading it and like learning about all the different like cultures that create Latino American culture.
Yeah.
And what it means to not only be a Latino in Latin America, but what it means to be a Latino in the United States. And being an immigrant, being the child of an immigrant, being the grandchild of an immigrant. No. All this stuff. It was just it's a very deep book. It goes into a lot of stuff. It's very, I wouldn't necessarily say heavy, because it does talk about a lot of kind of dark topics, but it's more so it's a lot of topics that it can get a bit overwhelming, I guess you could say. So
okay, let's say give it a 4, just because it's stuff that you like.
It was backwards. 4.5.
4.5. Hear the neighbor kids screaming. Bo.
Okay. Don't you dare.
All right, next one.
Okay. Okay. The next one is My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyen Khan Braithwaite, I believe is how you say it.
My Sister the Serial Killer.
So
Is that a biography too?
No. So basically, I believe it takes place in Nigeria. But basically it's about this young woman. Every guy that her sister dates, she ends up killing. So like her sister will be dating a guy.
Mm-hmm.
Her sister will kill her boyfriend. If that even, does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically she doesn't want her sister killing her boyfriends. And when she gets a crush on this coworker of hers, because she works at a hospital, her sister starts dating him, and she gets worried that he's gonna get killed. And so she's basically, throughout the book, it's also just, she helps her sister cover up these murders, and her sister's like the perfect child and can never do any wrong, and so she kind of feels obligated as the older sister to help this sister continue looking perfect while she's out killing all her boyfriends. And so she's basically trying to save this guy that she likes from dying as well. So, yeah.
3.5.
4. Okay, the next one is an autobiography. This is called The Girl with 7 Names. 7 names. By Hyunseo Lee. So basically this book is about, it's an autobiography, it's about Lee, who, she grew up in a like semi-wealthy family, and I learned this in the book, but in North Korea, your wealth is determined on your loyalty to the regime. So her family was pretty loyal, so she had access to food and water and a good home life and all this stuff, but basically her family eventually wanted out of North Korea. So she had fled to China, got separated from her family, and in order to escape repeatedly getting captured and brought back to North Korea, she had to keep changing her name and changing her identity 7 times. That's why it's called The Girl with 7 Names.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just kind of like goes into like I'd say the first half of the book is like what it was like living in North Korea, growing up in North Korea in a semi-wealthy family, and then the second half of the book is her escape and her having to change her identity and eventually like be free for once, in a way. So
3.5.
give that 4.
Oh my gosh. These are all getting high scores.
The next one is Be Free or Die by Kate Lineberry, or Lineberry, however you say it. Be free or die. Not Harriet Tubman.
Where's the cover?
I'm gonna show it. There we go.
Okay.
So this is a biography.
Oh, that's that book because we couldn't find the one that I was looking for. Okay.
Yeah. I was even talking to Mom about it and she was trying to find it at the bookstore.
That book? She knows what I'm talking about, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think so. But so basically this one is about an enslaved man named Robert Smalls, who basically he escaped slavery and became a Union hero. And basically he was a slave. Obviously he was born into slavery. And he was brought onto a, what is it, Confederate? Is that what they're called?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He was brought onto a Confederate warship during the Civil War because he, like, kind of, I guess, knew how to do boats, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so originally, obviously, he was just brought on as a slave who kind of knows some things, and he wasn't even, like, really given that much power and all that, obviously. Basically, he just kind of took over. And he was able to take this Confederate ship and sail it to the Union side. And he helped free a whole bunch of other slaves. He went back and united, he got more slaves to help unite these people with their, like, families. And like towards the end of the war, when slavery was actually gonna end, which honestly reminds me a lot of the show that I'm watching right now. But anyways, and so yeah, it was just a really interesting book. It's just about this man who went from being enslaved to fighting with the Union and helping free more slaves. And he obviously still had to deal with racism, but he, like the title says, he became a Union hero. Because the full title technically is Be Free or Die, the amazing story of Robert Smalls' escape from slavery to a Union hero. So that's the official title, but Be Free or Die, I just say that because it's
3.5.
3.5. 3.5.
Told you.
The next one is Speak. I still want to watch this movie. What is it?
Oh, even your foot still.
Yeah, he chews on his paws. I don't know why. I try to get him to stop. Okay, the next one is Speak by Lori House Anderson, I think is how you say it.
Okay.
So basically, this is about a young girl. She's like 14, 15. It's the summer before her freshman year of high school. The whole book takes place her freshman year of high school. She's at a party with some friends and all that, and she ends up calling the cops, and basically the party ends because she called the cops. So basically everybody in school kind of hates her going into her freshman year. She lost her 3 best friends. Trying to think of their names. I don't remember. I know one of them is Nicole because I like her. She's like the only friend who is actually nice. Yeah. Anyways, so basically she loses her friends. Everybody starts bullying her. She gets called Squealer. In Spanish, she gets called, because her name is Melinda, she gets called, something. I think it's like No Melinda or something.
Yeah.
Because, anyways. But, she starts getting bullied. She's going through all this stuff. And she doesn't speak to anybody at all. She doesn't speak to her parents. She doesn't speak to this one girl who tries to befriend her, but is a terrible friend because she is obsessed with becoming popular and she doesn't really care about Melinda. And there is a quote in the movie that's also in the book, and she basically just tells Melinda, like, you need serious help because I've never met anybody as depressed as you, and you're not interested in anything and all this stuff. And then Melinda was like, so you're ditching me because I'm a little depressed? Anyways, so basically the reason that the only person that she talks to is her art teacher. Her art teacher gives each student a project. They pick a word out of this globe, this like half globe bowl thing, and they have to create an art project using that word. The word she chooses is tree, hence why there's a tree on the cover of the book. And throughout the book, she's just slowly creating this different tree art in an abandoned janitor's closet that she found at school that nobody goes into. That's kind of like her only safe space. And the only person she speaks to, really, is her art teacher. Basically, the reason why she had called the police is because she was raped by a senior. And so she called the police but didn't really say anything. So the police showed up, obviously not knowing what happened. And everybody just kind of thought she had called the cops to end the party. So that's why she was getting bullied. But in actuality, she had called the police because she had just gotten raped. And so it's basically just her dealing with all this stuff, and like she tries to tell her ex-best friend, and her ex-best friend doesn't believe her. And the reason for that is because she starts dating the rapist. So that's the whole thing. I'm just ranting at this point. Anyways, so yeah, that's based on me ranting. What do you think I rated it?
A 4.
4. 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I really like that book. The next book. I'm weird. Oh my god. Ew, I hate that. The next book is The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith. Very similar to Speak, except it doesn't have a movie. Honestly, I would love it to be a movie, but at the same time, it's fine as it is being a book. But that's the cover.
Okay.
So, basically, this book is about a girl named Eden. She goes by Edie. And basically, the whole book is throughout her whole high school. So there's not chapters in the book. There's 4 parts. So there's freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, and senior year. Those are the parts. So basically, right before her freshman year, she's about to head into freshman year, and her brother is about to head into college. And he's going to be a roommate with his best friend, Kevin.
Kevin!
Basically, one night, Edie is in her room sleeping. Kevin goes in there and sexually assaults her. So basically, the whole book is just her dealing with all this. She doesn't tell anybody until the very, very end of the book. The one thing that was really sad about the book, so kind of spoilers, she doesn't sleep on her bed all 4 years of high school. She sleeps in a sleeping bag on her floor because ever since that incident, she hasn't been brave enough to sleep on her bed, and nobody notices. Nobody in her family notices that she's sleeping on her floor, that she's acting differently, all this stuff. And kind of along the way, she meets a guy named Josh, and kind of catches feelings for him, and then that kind of ends because he's 18. She told him that she was 16, turns out she was 14, and so he's like, whoa, okay, I'm gonna back off. So that ended, gets picked up kind of again at the end of the book. So basically it's just her coping with it, and I think it does an absolutely amazing job depicting what it's like to cope with sexual assault and all that. And the one thing that I like that I feel like is not really talked about enough is, rather than just kind of be like disgusted by sex and all that, she develops hypersexuality, which I feel like isn't talked about enough when it comes to being a survivor and that being a coping mechanism. I've seen a lot of people diss the book because of that, because they're like, it's unrealistic, and she's calling her names and stuff, which she also gets called in the book. And I'm just like, I feel like it's realistic, and it's not a coping mechanism that's talked about enough. But we basically just follow her all 4 years of high school. Kind of, she gets really depressed. She starts drinking and smoking weed and has hypersexuality and abandons friends that she had. And then it's just a lot in this book. It's just pretty much her dealing with the after results of being sexually assaulted, and every time like Kevin comes over, she kind of gets jumpy, and then she goes to school with his younger sister, and there's times where she wants to tell her, but she doesn't, and it's a whole thing, because it's like, that's her brother's best friend. She doesn't want to, he's seen it as another son to her parents. And in the book, she doesn't call her parents mom or dad. She starts calling them by their first names. So, anyways.
3.5.
What?
3.5.
5 stars.
Oh.
Yeah,
like
that was number 2 for my top 10 books of 2024.
Which one was number 1? The one before that?
The Rachel incident. Speak is like number 11 or something, so it didn't quite get it because I like some books more. The next book.
What number is this?
28? No. I don't know. The way I have it set up is all. I've got 3 books left.
Okay.
And the next one is Man-Made Monsters by Andrea L. Rogers.
These are all books that you did on the what's it called, huh?
Yeah.
I recognize the names.
So this book is basically just a whole bunch of interconnected
Okay. Stories.
short stories.
Yeah, okay, I remember now.
And so basically we follow this family over the span of 200 years. So it
200 años. Say it. 200 años.
I ain't doing that.
I'm not going to continue until you say it.
200.
There you go. How hard was that?
Anyway.
No sabo, kid? You may go now. Uh-oh, Bo.
Anyways, so basically we follow this Native American family over the span of 100 years, dealing with a whole bunch of stuff. It can be horrors as in werewolves and zombies and vampires and all that, but it can also be horrors as in residential schools and colonization, like real life horrors.
Mm-hmm.
So so even though each is a short story, we follow a different family member and all this stuff dealing with all these like horrors and all this stuff. So that's basically the summary, but it starts in 1839 and ends in 2039. So it kind of goes into that futuristic kind of slightly.
Did you know that we're closer to 2050? We're close now to 2050 that we are to 2000. We're as close to 2000 as we are to 2050 right now.
I was like, isn't that in the middle? So
yeah, we're as close to it now.
Yeah.
25 years. Anyway, just something I saw today. I know that's creepy. I'll be dead by then. Anyway, go ahead.
Maybe not.
Oh, I will be. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh.
I'll be flying high, drinking wine.
That was it. What do you think I rated it?
I really like short story books. I'm going to say you liked it too, so 4.5.
3.5. Okay, 2 more. The next one.
It seems like we just flew through this one.
Yeah.
Anyway, 2 more.
Next one is, this was my last book of 2024 because I found another one because I was just looking through my list of books. So I found another one. But this book that I'm going to talk about was my last book. And the book that I'm currently reading right now is my first book of 2025.
Okay.
This one is Mimi's Tales of Terror by Junji Ito. This is a manga.
My book arrives tomorrow.
What book?
I got it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, but I'm going to read it over the weekend and then you can have it. And do whatever you want with it.
So.
You'll all see tomorrow what book I got. I'm not going to say it right now.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah, all right, you need some attention, Bo? You can get right in front of him?
Okay, so basically, again, more short stories. So, Junji Ito is a manga author who's been writing mangas since the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And so some of his books will be short stories just like that. They're not connected or anything like that. Some of his books will be short stories that are connected. Some of his books are just one long story. This one is interconnected short stories. Basically, we follow this girl named Mimi, as well as her boyfriend in some stories. And basically, it's just her experiencing a whole bunch of creepy stuff. Like in one, like I think it's one of the shortest stories. It's literally just her and her boyfriend are driving on the road and they see a creepy woman on a utility pole. That's it. Another one is she moves into this apartment and there's this creepy tall woman who has 2 sisters that live near her. Because I say lives near her because she lives in one apartment and she basically, like, the guy who lives next to the 3 sisters, basically, like, like her and that guy start talking about their sisters and stuff like that and all this stuff. Eventually, he moves out because he gets too creeped out. She moves into that apartment. So
I'm back. We lost connection there for a little bit.
okay, so basically, like I was saying, it's just a whole bunch of short stories. And like another one is there's this creepy girl hanging in the middle of the woods. There's another one where she moves into a different apartment, and the apartment's backyard is a cemetery. So that's the whole thing. There's one that takes place on the beach, and it's just a lot of short stories and all that. I'd say probably some of his like most famous characters are Tomie, Saichi, like all this stuff. Like I don't know, just the art is creepy, the stories are creepy. And then I found out about him through the anime that was released in 2023 on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. And then I found out there was another anime released in 2018. I watched that on YouTube. That was good.
All right. You gave that a 5.
4.5. Okay, the last one.
The last one.
This is Tell Me How Long the Train's Been Gone by James Baldwin. Is that his name? Yeah, James Baldwin.
Okay.
So this book was released in the 60s. So it takes place in the 60s. Basically, it is about a young man named Leo. He's kind of like in the theater kind of business for work and stuff like that. And I mean, it talks about a lot. Like he grew up on the streets of Harlem. His brother, who everybody adored, ends up going to prison. He has an affair with a white woman, and he's a black man in the 1960s. He has an affair with a man, and that's the whole thing. It talks a lot about like being a black man in the 1960s and all this stuff. It talks about being a bisexual man in the 1960s and all this sorts of like just a interesting kind of book.
Mm-hmm.
And James Baldwin, I've noticed, tended to mainly write about gay black men because he was a gay black man in the 1960s. And so another book that I've heard recommended that I kind of might want to read is called Giovanni's Room. I might need to check that out. So if there's anybody who's read that book, is it worth reading? That's all I want to say. Anyways, what do you think I rate it?
Well, I was going to give it a 3, but I'm going to say give it a 4.
4.5, yeah.
4.5, okay, because towards the end you talked highly of it. All right, there you go.
Yeah. That was it.
So that was your...
I missed the call.
Yeah, she tried to call me too. All right, we out. Stay tuned. Let's not wait for so many books next time. Let's do like every 10 books. How's that?
Okay.
Okay, we'll focus on that. Yeah. All right, we out.